Let us pray. Eternal Father, we thank you for this gathering once again. We thank you for the joy and the love you've placed in the hearts of those who dwell here. Father, we pray your blessings upon this meeting. Pray your blessings upon the decisions that will be made tonight and the ideas and thoughts that will be entertained. We pray your guidance from above on these, with dealing with your people, that as much good will come out of this, Lord, as anything, that let it all be your will and your will alone. Father God, we just ask your guidance and your direction for all things dealing with your people, that the blessings be upon us as we make these decisions. Lord, we just ask that you would bless those in need of a blessing this evening. Pray that you would bless our soldiers on the battlefield, wherever they may be, whatever the situation may be. We pray your blessings upon the government, upon the United States government, upon our Congress and our president, that they will give the right decisions in whatever they do concerning the people. Father, we just pray your blessings upon this great nation. We just ask that you would guide us and direct us as you would have us to go. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Let's do the roll call. Okay, let's have a count. 19 and 2 absent. Okay. All right. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
Commissioner?
remove Resolution 2012-11 from the agenda tonight with the
Okay.
approval of the co-signer.
Okay. Any other changes? If not, let's vote on the approval of the agenda with that Resolution 2012-11 taken off. Oh, we did have a second over here, Ms. Fan. Okay. Got a motion and a second. Ms. Fan seconds. Okay, let's vote on the agenda, approving the agenda.
Are we voting on the agenda or the motion to remove it?
Well, the approving will do it. Once we approve the agenda, it will remove it. Okay. Do you want to ask the question, or do you? Did everybody hear her? She said, does anyone want to change their vote? If not, oh, okay. All right, the agenda is approved minus B under unfinished business. Okay, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes, previous minutes? Thank you.
Second.
Mr. West, you second it? Okay. Any discussion? Let's vote, please.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, did y'all hear her? She said, did anyone want to change their vote? We're going to make sure that that's asked every time. Okay, let's have a count. Let's have a count, please. Okay. Okay, Miss Patton. before you go to work.
Number 7, resolutions of memorial, sympathy, commendation. I don't have any.
Okay.
Number 8, elections, appointments, and confirmations.
Okay, hang on just a minute. Let's give him time to get it typed in. Okay. Are you ready? Okay.
Notaries. Margie Allgood, Karen L. Brashears, James D. Bratcher Jr., Teresa A. Champion, Linda Ann D. Ford, Amber Victoria Dotson, Andrea Farrell, Shantae S. Gilly, Joe L. Lester, Jennifer Matthews, Michael D. Melton, Stephanie B. Moore, Tina R. Mullinax, Cindy T. McDaniel, Charles C. Northcott, Brenda Parks, LaRon I. Tips, Angela Lee Vaughn, David T. Wall, David E. Johnson, Mildred L. Mayton, Connell D. Roten Jr., Terry R. Williams, Valerie Smith Mullins, Colleen P. Saunders, and Casey Powers.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the notaries. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Duckett made the motion, Mr. Kelly made the second. Okay, any discussion? Let's vote, please.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, if not, let's have the count. Okay,
B is the purchasing commission.
okay. You want to read the names, or you want me? Okay, okay, Ann Frisbee, David Pennington, Keith Thacker, Virgil Alford, Rush Griffin. And this is a mayor's appointment. I'll entertain a motion. Thank you.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? If not, let's vote, please. Did you see Commissioner Alford?
Does anyone want to change their vote?
Okay,
18 yes.
all right. Let's give him a chance to get the item typed. He's putting Virgil in. Good to have you here, Commissioner Alford.
C, Beer Board.
Okay. Yeah, you want to go ahead?
Okay, the present members are Virgil Alford, Bobby Bryan, Jimmy Bradford, Tim Morris, and Barry West.
Okay, that is a mayor's appointment, and I'll entertain a motion to accept this. Okay, thank you. Second? Who? Mark? Okay. Commissioner Thacker? Okay. Any discussion? If not, let's vote, please. Commissioner Duncan, is it not working?
Does anyone want to change their vote?
I may have pushed 2 buttons, so it should be a yes, but on confirmation it should say
Okay.
yes.
So yours is a yes when it comes to... All right, let's have the count, please. Okay. Are we ready? Okay.
D, County Coroner. And that is a commission appointment, and it is Dr. Al Brandon.
Who's been serving and is on now. His time's up, right?
Yes.
Okay. Does the commission want to reappoint Dr. Brandon?
Chairman.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote, please.
Does anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, if not, let's have a count.
20 yes.
Okay. E is the 911 district communications, and the members that their time is up is appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the commission, are Ross Simmons, Tilden Stubblefield, and Jerry Brown.
Yeah, and we want to leave them on. I entertain a motion? Thank you. Second, thank you. Any discussion? Let's
Question.
vote, please.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, did you say something, Commissioner Alford? Okay, let's have the count, please.
18 yes.
Okay, F, Rural Roads and Bridges Committee. The members now are Janet Fan, Tim Morris, Keith Thacker, Virgil Alford, Barry West, and Steve Parks.
Okay. All right, do we have a second? Commissioner Duncan, okay. Any discussion? Let's vote, please.
Anyone want to change their vote?
If not, let's have the count, please.
17 yes.
Thank you.
The service officer, which is our veteran representative, is Frank Reese.
Okay, that is a commission appointment, and Frank Reese is serving now and still wants to serve. I'll entertain a motion to do that.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Let's vote, please.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, if not, let's have a count.
20 yes.
Okay. H, Board of Zoning Appeals. The members are that their term is up January 2013 are Connie Larry, Gary Cordell, and Bobby Bryan, who is associate member.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Fan. Okay, any discussion? Let's vote, please.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, let's have the count.
18 yes. One vote.
All right, Jail Inspection Committee. This is a law enforcement appointment. The members now are Gary Kidd, Wilma Thomas, Jackie Duncan, Robert Gillum, Lee Duckett, and Ann Frisbee. And David Pennington is Mayor Zona's ex officio member.
Does law enforcement want to leave it that way?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept this. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Let's vote, please.
Does anyone want to change their vote?
All right. Let's have the count, please.
18 yes, 1 no, 1 abstain.
Okay.
Emergency Management Board. The members whose terms are up are Dale Brandon, Bob Payne, and Coy Noblett.
Okay, now Dale Brandon is the rule, Bob
Yes.
Payne is Tullahoma, and Coy Noblett is Manchester. Is that
Right.
right? And this is a commission appointment. Okay. Do we, all right, thank you. Any discussion? Let's vote, please. Waiting on Commissioner Kidd.
Does
There we
anyone
go.
want to change their vote?
If not, let's have a count.
20 yes.
20 years, okay.
Okay, the next K is Planning Commission, and the only one person that's up is Gary Cordell, it's a mayor appointment.
Yeah, we're going to appoint Gary Cordell back. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to do that. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Let's vote, please.
Does anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, if not, let's have the count.
19 yes, 1 abstain.
Okay, L, Adult Oriented Establishment Board, which probably didn't have to be on the agenda, but.
No, but, now, you don't have to vote on this one, so you can take it off, but I wanted it on here so we could tell them who's on the board. You know, even though you don't have to bring it and vote on it, I still want it, we need to read the name so they'll know who's on it.
We have 2 Tullahoma, 2 Rural, and 1 Manchester.
Okay.
It's Marty Scott, Alan Sweeten, Virgil Offord, Donnie Thomas, and Charles Harris.
Okay. All right, now let's go to the next item.
The Public Building Authority.
Okay.
We had one person, which shouldn't come off it until September, who has resigned because he moved out of the area. This is a Tullahoma appointment, so it,
Well, it's the mayor's appointment, but it's two.
but it's Tullahoma, and it's Debbie Bryan.
And- Okay.
So Debbie Bryan.
Is it Brown or Brown?
I'm sorry, Brown.
Brown, yeah. Okay. With that, I entertain a motion to accept that appointment. Thank you. Second? Thank you. You see the second over here? Okay.
Who was it? Oh,
Mr. Meyer? Okay. Any discussion? Let's vote. Commissioner Kidd, I believe your batteries are getting weak. There we go. Is that the problem? Okay.
Does anyone want to change their vote?
If not, let's have the count.
20 yes.
Okay. Okay. Going to number 9.
Number 9, county officials standing and special committees. I don't know if anybody has anything. I don't. Okay.
Okay.
Unfinished business.
Just give him a minute to type.
A, Resolution 2013-01, a resolution amending provisions of Article 4, Section 4047 of the zoning resolution, Resolution 2006, as amended, Resolution 2012-10. Coffee County, Tennessee, adjusting the amount of the reclamation bond.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion here and get a second so we can discuss this. We need a motion on this resolution.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second? Thank you. All right, let's go into discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment to the resolution.
Okay,
I'd like for the resolution to be replaced with this. Whereas there is a need to establish a fair and adequate reclamation bond for any mining operations, and whereas the Coffee County Planning Commission has reviewed and made a recommendation, now therefore be it resolved that paragraph E3, B1D, B2I of section 4.047 be modified to accept the recommendation of the Coffee County Planning Commission regarding the procedure and means to determine the appropriate reclamation bond for any potential mining operations, so as to adequately protect the future financial interests of the Coffee County taxpayers and citizens.
okay, we need a second on this. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do is vote on the amendment.
Well, let's discuss it first.
I know, but I'm telling you what we're going to do. We're going to vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the resolution. So let's discuss the amendment. Commissioner Alford, I wasn't going to vote on it, but thank you for keeping an eye on me. Okay. All right, discussion on the amendment.
Yeah, let's break it down and tell it what it means. Those I's and B's and C's and all that stuff, all that's good information, but it doesn't tell us nothing.
This amendment will take the recommendation of the Coffee County Planning Commission, which will look at each and any mining operations that make application to this county. They will use expert opinion and advice and so forth to determine what would be the proper reclamation bond for that mining operation. As mining operations can vary, there can be certain degrees. You could have a bond limit set too high, a bond limit set too low. So the proper means and procedure would be to use the proper authorities to determine what would be appropriate.
Should we then define who those property authorities are and what their qualifications must be?
And shouldn't we define what the A, Part B, Part A, and all those other things are spelled out in the resolution so we know clearly what we're voting on?
Are you asking Commissioner Bryan that question? Or is that, okay. Commissioner Bryan?
I believe, Mr. Chance, you have the first question. Was it in regard to who?
Right. If we're going to,
I'd say the proper people, as the Planning Commission alluded to, would be the proper engineers and authorities in that area
engineers in what field?
to determine if you have a mining operation and you got to do reclamation. You know, me as a novice citizen, I would have no way to determine what would be the proper bond for that. Only someone who is properly qualified to assess and evaluate that operation and their plan and what they intended to do and would be doing would be an authority in doing that. Bobby, can I?
Do we not need to define then what those qualifications of that individual are? And on top of that, does everybody here understand what the reclamation of a quarry actually entails?
You want me to answer your first question? I feel that the Planning Commission would need to, I would agree with you, Mr. Chance, look at that, and they can be more specific in defining, you know, authorities and sources that would be utilized by both parties.
Okay, I think Commissioner Alford, okay, yeah, when he gets done though, Commissioner Alford had a question after you.
I'd really want to see it broke down into various subparts and have it categorized out, and therefore, I'm not sure that tonight, I'm not going to say I disagree with what you're asking, Bobby, but I would like to see it spelled out so we know exactly what it is that we're voting on. When we're talking Part B, Part A, I can't follow that, especially when it's coming from amendment, and I don't have it spelled out in writing of what each one of what that definition to each one of those things are. So for me, I couldn't support that tonight until that's broken down.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly, then Commissioner Duckett.
And I guess my other question that goes with that, and I'll try to get in the form of a question, Bobby, but when you're looking at that, and again, I don't know if it's good or bad what you propose because I don't understand what you're asking us to do. I certainly don't want to be in a position that the Planning Commission is setting and establishing what those fees are going to be and what the reclamation costs are, because that's not their job, that's our job. And I certainly would not want to turn this over to them. And second, to go with that, the fact is, if you look at the way the regulations are read today, all of these kind of establishments are going to be built either within a city or within an urban growth boundary. And I certainly think if we're going to do something, we need to put some extraterritorial requirements in there that let those cities and municipalities that are involved with that being stuck in their growth boundary having a say and being part of the process in doing that. And currently we only have a rural planning commission, but their actions are beginning to significantly affect what happens outside of the rural areas in dealing with what's in the urban planning growth. And we need to do what a lot of communities have and go to an extraterritorial kind of an arrangement that let those communities participate in that as well.
Okay. Commissioner Duckett?
The information that's been in question is in the proposal that was made by the Planning Commission, and that's still their recommendation. I don't have a copy of that before me. It was presented to the full commission, and that information is on
Basically,
our recommendation.
Excuse me, Duckett, I didn't mean to interrupt, but in regard to the paragraph E, if you look at the resolution, that's the same paragraph that I just quoted in the amendment. So that's on the resolution 2013-01. And that is one section where it was establishing $4,000 per acre and the $200,000. So basically, coming back to what you was asking, Mr. Kelly, is this is basically saying reclamation bond, instead of it being defined by this commission, which there's some question of who really has authority to set and determine the reclamation amount, whether it is the Planning Commission or the County Commission, and that's not going to be rectified here tonight. But either, whichever the case may be, the amendment I've offered up is where you would seek proper authorities and sources to determine what would be a proper reclamation bond for the mining operation that would be applied. And therefore, it wouldn't be an arbitrary amount set by just lay Planning Commission members or lay County Commissioner members like ourselves who do not have the expertise to do so.
Okay, Commissioner Chance, then Commissioner Alford.
Do we also need then to define what reclamation actually is? Because I'm not sure that everybody has an understanding of what reclamation of a mining or quarrying operation actually entails. And that's got to be defined as well. So do we need to define that as well at the same time?
I'd say that would be something, one of the other issues you brought forward. I think the Planning Commission would need to look at that and get proper definition and defining, of reclamation and what the reclamation would involve, and clarify that. I think that would be a proper thing.
As it stands now, is there someone here with the Planning Commission? I know we didn't have anyone.
We do have the
last
Vice
month,
Chairman.
but Vice Chairman, who's that?
Gary Cordell.
Mr. Cordell?
Mr. Cordell, could you would you mind stepping up and, now, you know, I asked him to come in, and he had another appointment, so he was willing to stay so he could answer some questions.
I've just got
I
one.
thank you for doing that too, because you see right now we need to ask you a question.
Okay.
And I appreciate it as well, Mr. Cordell. The question I've got is, as it stands right now, what exactly is required of a mining or quarrying operation to reclaim the land that the operation took place on?
I cannot answer that specific question.
I think a lot of people have the misperception or even misconception that the reclamation includes filling in the hole, and it doesn't. It means recovering the land where the actual plant sat, and that would entail, in most other areas, it entails removing any crusher run or any kind of rock that was put down as a foundational barrier to support the way of the plant. Has to be removed, topsoil brought in if needed, and trees planted, grasses planted, and that's the extent of it. So if anybody's ever done any clearing and grubbing or planting or anything like that, $4,000 an acre is more than sufficient for that. So I want to make sure everybody understands that the reclamation of a quarry does not entail filling in a 300-foot deep hole.
If I may, going back to, I think, the question at hand, as I understand it, we did, as the Planning Commission, we poured over this situation, whatever, trying to answer, to give a fair response to this body that you asked us to in June when we met, as to a reclamation amount. What we sent back to this body was that, consistent with an application that is filed, all we were saying was, with the supporting documents, whatever the enterprise is, we were saying that it's up to that enterprise to give us information to go on. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a geologist, no one on our planning commission is. But, to make a comparison here, I don't know that you'd want to ask a brain surgeon, or this body would want to make a brain surgeon as to what it costs to operate on my head. We were just simply saying that when an application is submitted, which apparently has not been, all we were saying was we want this body to direct this entity to submit an application with the supporting documents. Part of that would be engineering studies that would come up with a cost of reclamation per acre based on the proposed plan of operation. That's all we were saying, and I don't know that, I think that's reasonable to, and I'm trying to answer it best I can.
Right, and I appreciate that. I guess I'd also ask the question then as to why, or is this requirement for independent reclamation studies upon one entity? Why not across all industrial classes that require any kind of reclamation, rather than just one? If it's going to be applied to one, it must be applied to all. Or if it's not going to be applied to all, it shouldn't be applied to just one.
Absolutely.
And the cost of that is something that is, of course, then we passed on to the applicant, and can run into tens of thousands of dollars at times. And I don't know if that's a fair cost to burden an applicant with on a case-by-case basis, while at the same time, I think we can look at, and I think we should look at, surrounding areas, and rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, use what other examples we've got around us and determine what is most appropriate.
Yeah, and along with that, I totally agree. But neither is it, we thought that neither is it the responsibility of the Planning Commission to try to come up with a cost and retain a geologist and whatever at county expense to provide those figures. That should be provided by the applicant and the application. It should be across the board. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, just to read very briefly about from our zoning manual. At the time an application is filed for approval of an M2 district, but an application got to be submitted. A review of the location, design configuration, and its impact will be conducted by comparing the proposed use, the preliminary development plan, the operational data, and the environmental assessments to the site location criteria. And it goes on and on here. And if I may just very briefly share some of those criteria with this body.
You may.
So we'll all understand a little better as to what we're just simply asking. And I won't go into every dot and everything in here, but for example, The proposed site will be located in an area apart from concentrations. This is in reference to the M2 area. Will be located in an area apart from concentrations of residential developments and community facilities where concentrations of people will be present. And we've got to evaluate all that. That's what you're asking us to do. The proposed use does not have the potential to pollute or deteriorate the air quality, subsurface or subterranean water, or I borrowed somebody's glasses here, or any other natural feature. The proposed site will not be located in an area where it has the potential to contaminate the source and the existing water supply. The proposed site will be free of sinkholes, caves, caverns, or other features that would present significant potential for surface collapse or significant degradation to local groundwater resources, and so on. I could go on and on with this. But also the proposed site will not be located within the 100-year floodplain or within any wetland area. The proposed use will not decrease the value of surrounding properties. And whether the proposed use promotes the public health, safety, and welfare or has potential adverse environmental or development impacts. Those are just some of the criteria that we've got to evaluate that you want us, that you're paying us the big bucks to evaluate. Just kidding. But that's what you're asking us to do. And we're trying to do that to the best of our ability, but we've got to start with an application and the supporting documents so we can review that for a rock quarry proposition or a hospital or a doctor's office or whatever it is. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
Yeah, can I follow up with that with,
Sure.
So if we put this burden upon the applicant to provide to perform a study to determine what is the most appropriate bond amount and things such as that.
And I realize this will be costly upon any
Right.
applicant.
Beyond that, what happens then? Are we also then going to bind ourselves to say that whatever the applicant pays for and then ultimately determines to be a fair and equitable amount is the Planning Commission and then therefore this legislative body going to accept it as such? Because what happens when an applicant comes in and says, "No, I paid a consultant and they said it cost me $200 an acre to be bonded"? Is that going to be sufficient? Are we going to accept that? Or are we going to still say, well, no, we got to do something else? And then, so how are we going to approach that situation when that happens? Because it will happen.
Sure. And we've got to evaluate all that in view of the guidelines that has been handed down and voted on by this commission years ago. We've got to interpret that and make what we think is the best call, the right call, the fairest call, considering all concerned, and not just look at one. And Mr. Darden, for example, he has to, and if I may, Mayor, I wasn't here at the November meeting, but if I may say this, I understand that he was unmercifully, sounds like the messenger was shot when he was here just to present the message. And I would ask whichever commissioners, man, woman, whoever, whatever that worked him over that way, you owe the man an apology, because he's here only as a public servant to do his job. And that's what you're paying him for.
Mr. Cordell, before you switch over, Mr. Cordell,
okay.
before you switch to something else, the point that Mr. Chance raised, which I think is a reasonable point.
Sure.
Obviously, you got somebody applying to the county, of course, who we're trying to protect here, the taxpayers of Coffee County and the citizens of Coffee County. And when they're supplying this data and this information and everything, I think it would be like any common sense approach. You know, you're not going to let them just totally establish that, obviously, because it could be detrimental to the taxpayers of this county. So they would have, hopefully, well-qualified, proper sources that they get their data from, and then the county, in order to protect, and the County Planning Commission, in order to protect the citizens of this county, they would use a proper source or authority in order to determine if that is reasonable for the situation. And with courts of law and all kinds of places, you have arbitration procedures that take place. And, you know, if there was a situation where there's some different views by expert authorities, I think an arbitration process would probably resolve the matter. So that would just be my take on what you mentioned, Mr. Chance.
Right. And
Okay, Commissioner Chance, when you get done, I just want everybody to know that next one up is Commissioner Alden.
And I don't mean to take your time.
No, you take all the time you want.
But if we're going to take that approach, then how do we pay for it? And if we're doing it every single time, what is the allotted amount, and where's the money coming from to pay for this independent source of study? to verify whether or not the one that we're requiring upon the applicant is accurate and valid or not. How are we going to pay for that, and through what mechanism?
That's a very good point.
I would comment, Mr. Cordell may want to comment, but obviously you don't have a tremendous number of mining operations that come making applications to the county. As far as I'm aware, right now we have no applications from any mining operations, and since I've been on the county commission, I'm really not aware of any applications for mining operations in this county. And Mr. Chance, I think it's a good point that you raised, and I think of course, as far as cost and funding, I'm not an expert in that area, but a lot of times you may have to invest some money in order to get, the opinions and the expert information in order to protect your taxpayers and your citizens, because you could be talking about some significant future costs to the taxpayers of this county. So sometimes we may need to invest some money to protect that, and we may be investing a very small amount of money compared to what the potential cost to the taxpayers might be.
And I fully understand that, but this resolution speaks to M2 Special Impact Industrial District, not just quarries. So anybody who applies for anything that falls within that would then have to perform a study and such. So it's not just limited to quarries, and I'm not even taking my looking at this, and my questions are not based on whether or not there's a quarry being proposed or not proposed or anything such as that. It's looking at what are the short-term and long-term ramifications of making a change such as this, and how do we deal with it, and what are the possible outcomes if we do this, what could possibly happen, and how do we rectify those along the way. So to me, it doesn't matter if there's a quarry or not being proposed. What matters to me is what we are proposing sound, and is it something that we can actually execute and make happen without burdening the taxpayer or even the applicant, for that matter.
Mr. Chance, if you don't mind, I'd like to respond to that. If Mr. Cordell here is chairman of the Planning Commission, and he may have before him or he may not, the various operations that will fall under the M2 classification, and I think if he read those off, most of the citizen taxpayers here and others would see a definite and definitive need to do this same process, possibly with any of them. And I agree with you, any classifications and anything seeking M2 classification, I think it should be applied to all of them. And if you check that list of various operations that would come under an M2, like I say, I think the majority of citizens in this county would definitely be concerned with those kind of operations and want this thoroughly addressed.
So, and I'll be quick here. How does that impact the resolution we'll be looking at here shortly for an M2 zoning change here in the next 20 minutes or so? It's a different resolution, but how does that then impact that? Do we need to take that one off and start from scratch on that, because that's an M2 special impact industrial district zoning change, and how does it impact that, and will that applicant need to go back and perform a study?
Well, Mr. Chance, once again, I'm not on the Planning Commission. Excuse me, Mr. Cordell, if I step on your toes, but one, we don't have an application. And of course, M2s are provided for in the growth plan, and they're provided for in the urban or the rural growth UGP, not UGB area, not the urban growth boundary, but the planned growth area, PGA. Get all these letters in order here, mate.
Right, and I'm not disagreeing with that.
And yeah, that's, of course, they're related issues, potentially. That could be, a mining operation could be one of the uses under M2,
Yes.
Okay, I've been patient.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Commissioner.
I think there's a limit to what we go back and forth with from on the floor. I believe we just passed that. My question is, here's my concerns. We've had documentation coming back and forth from planning to commission, a lot of codes and special numbers placed in the paragraph format. Nothing really drawn out that any commission on this floor can really look at the time that you're voting on it. I really want to see it in a document form If we voted on it here tonight, it still needs to be in the contingency upon looking at it in a document form so that every commission can know exactly what they're voting on and what kind of impact. Not only is it going to place on those entities that are coming in looking for potential growth, but also to protect, as you said, Bobby, every citizen and taxpayer of Coffee County. So we need to look at it. I personally want to know what it is I'm voting on, especially with something that impacts this county as much as this does, is what you're proposing. I want to know every bit of it spelled out in writing, so I know I don't want any E's and B's and C's. I'm not well rehearsed on all of those codes, and when you start looking at some of those codes, they're pages. So my advice to this commission from the years that I've also been on here, Mr. Brian, as you quoted a while ago, we need to be sure of what we voted on tonight.
Okay, any other discussion?
Mr. Alford, just in response to that, the paragraph E, 3B1B, V2I, section 4.047, what that is, it's in the resolution you see here, 2013-01, which I offered up the amendment to. It is the section providing for the reclamation bond. Now, just to provide a little bit simple answer to what you're saying, that's what those particular numbers, they're pulled exactly from 2013-01 resolution that was saying $4,000 per acre, $200,000 per project. That's where those are coming from, which has been before you.
Some of the terminology that you used a while ago was reverting back to the proposed, back to what the Planning Commission had already proposed, and some of that was a little bit, doesn't fall in line with the conversations that I'm here tonight. And so personally, for myself, unless I've got it in a document format that I know exactly what it is I'm voting on, so that down the road when we have a company come in here and things don't smell right or look right to them, that we don't get into litigation with these various entities because we voted on something that we don't know what we're voting on, and the county attorney has not had an opportunity to look at those codes and see how it protects the county. I don't feel comfortable. I would rather postpone this until March and take a look at it and put it in a format if this amendment process is passed. And if this is passed, then I'm going to make a motion to do as such.
Mr. Alford, in response to what you mentioned and having before you on November the 13th, actually in our November the 13th commission meeting, this commission voted 13-8 to accept the October 24, 2012 report from the Planning Commission concerning reclamation costs. And that is action we took. That is in the minutes of the November 13th commission meeting when we accepted that report. And what I offered up here is what came from that report.
And that's good. Bobby, I'm not trying to beat you up with it. I just want it, with this, as we've got a good audience here tonight, and I appreciate everyone coming. This is a topic that everyone, I believe, in the county is interested in various ways. Some pro one way, some pro another way, some against this, some that. We can bring up one topic, one person's for that, you bring up another topic, they'd be against that, and then for something else. So, and that's what makes us all unique and different, and that's why we appreciate everyone and certainly reverence each other's opinions. But we really need to be careful what we vote on.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly.
Yes. Mr. Bryan, you did mention we voted to accept the report. It's what we did. We accepted the report as a report given. We did not approve it. We didn't take any action to recommend it. Put no relationship except we got a report, we received it, we put it in the books. Nothing else. And that's exactly what we did. To try to insinuate there was some other reason behind that, I'm sorry, that's not what happened. Second part of this, what I see before me says here is the bonding that we're looking at, and it's an up-to bond. We're going to require someone to get a bond. Fine, $4,000 an acre, $200,000 a project. That's fine as far as if that's what we're going to do countywide. It's going to cost up to that amount, and if it's something that's very unusual, then we certainly have the right to do an exception. But to have a standard that people can come into and rely on is very important. This not an issue of do we have a quarry or don't we have a quarry. This is an issue of what do we do in this classification across the county. And every one of these, you know, we're talking about the application a couple down from here. We're coming in with another application that's going to do the exact same thing the quarry does, except dig a hole in the ground. And we're not going to do anything for them because it's not in your neighborhood. Well, we need to have it so that it covers everybody's neighborhood and everybody's treated fairly and properly in this. We certainly want to reclaim the stuff. We certainly want to put the citizens in the best light we can put this county in. And I don't have a problem with the fact of what you said as far as we'll do it on a case by case. I certainly have a problem with throwing it over the wall and saying, well, we're just going to throw it at the Planning Commission and let them make the decisions because they're not an elected body to this county, and they only represent a very small fraction of the people of this county because they don't represent me as a Tullahoman, and they don't represent anybody here from Manchester. They represent rural Coffee County only. I certainly don't want to be throwing over how my city's going to be allowed to develop and progress in the future under that bus. I want to know that it's this commission that's going to take that on. We're going to approve the rates. I don't care if we have to do it for each one. But you sure are opening yourself up for a mess when you're going like, we're going to ask these guys to come in today and present to us what they think it'll cost so that we can then make it be something else. And you've already said, we have no expertise in doing this and no basis to make the decision. Take that one to court and see what the judge says when you have to defend your position. I'm sure Mr. Husky would enjoy defending one where you've already pled guilty, that you're not capable of making the decision, so you're going to go forward with a plan that you'll make up the rules later on when you're dealing with someone else. We need to decide this either tonight. I certainly think Mr. Alford has a good position. Put it down in writing, make it what it's going to be where we understand it. But I sure don't want to turn over our authority as a county commission to a group of people, and I know they're doing the best job they can do, but they're private citizens with no more expertise than us. We may not have the expertise, but by taking the position you did and swearing into that position, we've taken it upon ourselves to protect the people and do it in the best manner we can. It is now our job to do, and we need to step up and do it.
Mr. Kelly, I think we're doing and what the amendment says, and the Planning Commission's role in this, in looking at each entity and determining what is the appropriate reclamation bond based on expert authority, expert advice from people in the field that know it's a proper thing to do. I think it's just the opposite of what you said. I think this county will be opening itself up to more potential legal problems by coming in here and setting a capricious and arbitrary amount. This amount here may be too little or too less, I don't know. But setting an amount, it's not a matter of setting a standard. The standard is you apply and they look at each entity on its own merits and on what they're going to be doing, and you use proper authorities, which are not going to come from the Planning Commission or this County Commission. There's not a person on either of these bodies that has that authority or that expertise. So you're going to seek proper expertise in determining what would be appropriate for that entity. And what would be appropriate for one entity might not be appropriate for another.
Commissioner Bricken.
Mr. Cordell, you're going to be here the rest of the night, aren't you?
I've got another meeting right now that I need to be at, but
Well,
I'm supposed to be at.
because there's a lot of things on these other resolutions dealing with the Rice property that someone from the Planning Commission needs to be here, because I'm following Mark's train of thought here, because it deals with this because, you know, in case this one refers to in case of a mining operation. Of course, Mr. Rice is a salvage operation. I have as much concern with what's on top of the ground as what's dug out of the ground. Is in destroying the land and the aesthetics and groundwater. And you made mention that, you know, any proposals for zone M2 zoning would require a total plan, application, a plan, the impact. Now, the question is, I'm jumping a little bit ahead, did Mr. Rice provide that to you?
No, sir.
Then why is this?
Not a total plan. Now, you got an operation there that's already existing and been in operation for years.
No. I mean, he's already got, I guess, that one area, but now we got 65 acres more being proposed to be M2. I think Mr. Rice runs a good operation, but I mean, we got we don't even have we got one mining operation that's inactive in our county. We got 3 or 4 salvage operations. We might probably have a whole lot more that I have probably more trouble with going on in this county in its long-term impacts than anything else. So, but you made a statement that, and these 2 resolutions have been proposed by the Planning Commission, and your statements was that anything that's going to be zoned M2 would require a complete application, the groundwater impact, and all like this. So I'm having a concern that the resolution 1303 hadn't been as qualified to come to this commission for approval tonight.
And I know, now he did make application as to what all supporting documents that were there. We didn't go into that in that much detail that night, but he did have he at least had an application.
I guess we'll cover that later, but that's why I will certainly hope you would be there. The rest of the statement certainly, you know, I'm going to stop there.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, Mr. Cordell, you want to sit back down?
Yeah, but if I might make one other statement,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, in the whatever it's worth category, some of the other areas that are in the M2 area that we've got to be concerned about, if they were presented to us, are arsenals, fireworks manufacturing and storage, solid waste processing and recycling, waste incinerators, including hospital and medical waste, petroleum refining, mining activities, adult bookstores. You know, there are other things there besides, you know, just mining operations, as someone mentioned.
Okay.
Mayor, before
Mr.
Cordell, before you step back, could you give us any of the other kind of uses? You know, could you take one of these M2s, once it's zoned M2, and I'm going to bring in railroad ties and sell? Can I now change that over next week and haul hazardous waste out of there?
Elaborate a little more on your statement.
My concern gets to be, once we get something zoned properly, and we have an M2, regardless of what you want to call it today, tomorrow the guy dies and his family sells the business, or he finds out he can make more money hauling nuclear waste through here and using the railroad spur down here. Now, I don't think Tom would do that, but regardless, those kind of things happen in real life.
Sure they do.
So what happens once I zone this piece of property as an M2? Now the guy can convert it to any other M2 use that he wants from that day forward. He's already got a reclamation plan that deals with digging a hole in the ground, but now he's doing something different. So does he have to come back and re-site the whole area? When I read it, it sounds to me like once it's zoned, he can do anything in that zoning category regardless. It's like when I get something that's zoned R3 and say I'm going to put in, you know, 0 lot line houses, and I decide to put in an apartment complex, I can go put in an apartment complex because I've got it R3 now, and once it meets that category, I can do with it what I want. That's my concern, is what happens to these zoning things. Once they get zoned as something, they can do anything really within that zoning classification, if I understand it right, and they can make that change anytime they want to. Is that right?
That's a very specific question. I wish Mr. Darden were here to answer that. He's the specialist that handles it. I'm not trying to duck that or whatever. We just have to evaluate every circumstance on its own and relate it to what's in these guidelines and make the best decision we can on that.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Are we ready to vote on the amendment? Okay. Commissioner.
Quick question. Mr. Cordell, over here. You mentioned fireworks manufacturing and storage. As that, I assume that's part of the M2.
The what?
M2 group, or will we go in the M2 area? I mean,
Fireworks
Fireworks.
and
Just
storage and
We can
manufacturing.
allow explosives in the urban growth area, but we don't want to allow them out in the county.
I didn't make these guidelines.
Okay.
I wanna
You-
read
you
you
realize
what-
we have fireworks storage right now in this county?
I realize that.
Okay, are we ready to,
But I didn't make the guidelines. That was done long before my.
are we ready to vote on the amendment? If you vote yes, then you're voting for the amendment. We ready to vote?
We do a roll call?
We sure can. We're voting on the amendment right now,
Are we
Bobby.
voting for it as it originally was presented, or are we voting
We're-
for it
we're-
after Mr. Bryan?
Just like Mr. Bryan, stated it. Yes, we're just voting on the amendment. And if you vote yes, then the amendment, you know, if you vote yes, then you're voting for the amendment. And you've requested a roll call? Okay.
Did we have a second on that amendment?
On the amendment, did we get a second? Yes, okay, we did get a second. Commissioner Duckett, okay. Are we ready? Let's do rule first.
Bobby Bryant,
Yes.
Janet Fan, Eric Chant,
No.
Kerry Farrell, Lee Duckett,
Yes.
Virgil Alford, Barry West,
No.
Tim Morris, Randy Bell, Keith Thacker, Mark Kelly,
No.
Robin Hines, Jimmy Bradford, Jackie Duncan, Gary Kidd, Bruce Bricken, Maureen Walker,
No.
Stephen Jones,
No.
Bobby Thomas. Yes. Sam Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, next time when you speak, would you mind speaking into the, because we're recording this.
Does anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, did you hear what she said? Does anyone want to change their vote?
13 no, 6 yes.
Okay. All right, so now let's vote on the resolution then. Okay, we ready to vote on the resolution?
Can we do that by roll call also as well, please?
Oh, you want a roll call on it too, okay? Let's wait till, Ken, you tell me when you ready to go? Okay. All right.
Bobby Bryan,
No.
Janet Fan, Eric Chant,
Yes.
Gary Farrell, Lee Duckett,
No.
Virgil Alford, Barry West,
Yes.
Tim Morris, Randy Bell, Keith Thacker, Mark Kelly,
Yes.
Robin Hines,
Yes.
Jimmy Bradford, Jackie Duncan, Gary Kidd, Bruce Bricken, Maureen Walker,
Yes.
Stephen Jones,
Yes.
Bobby Thomas. No. Sam Meyer. Does anyone want to change their vote?
If not, let's have the count.
13 yes,
What are we, okay, you still counting?
7 no.
13? Okay, 13 yes, 7 no. Okay. All righty. Let's go to the next item of business, which is... Well, there ain't any others, so we're going to new business, aren't we? Number 11.
A, Resolution 2013-02, Resolution to amend Coffee County zoning resolution 2006-39 to rezone an 18.21 acre tract located north of the Old Tullahoma Highway from RS1 to C2.
Okay, we need to get a motion and a second so we can discuss this resolution. Thank you, Commissioner Morris. Do we have a second? Commissioner Duckett, did you second? Okay. All right, let's get into the discussion here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Kelly?
can we get someone to explain to us what is RS1 compared to RS2?
Compared to RS2 or C2?
I'm sorry, C2. RS1 to C2.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Cordell, can you explain that, if you don't mind? And we do appreciate you taking your time. I know you had another meeting, and we appreciate you doing the best you can on this.
That has to do with, well, with R2, for example, you may have duplexes available there, whereas R1 is just your general residential area.
The question is RS1, what is the RS1 section and what is the C2 section? What is the difference?
C2, you have more commercial.
It's commercial?
Yes, sir. You have
And
more.
RS1?
It's residential.
Residential.
R1 or, I do not remember on that. I think that, I don't know. Just be straight up honest with you. But the C is commercial.
But the C1, one is residential, one is commercial, is that right?
That's correct.
Any other discussion?
I've got just a quick question.
Okay.
And I hate to ask this of you, Mr. Cordell, but if
Mr. Cordell?
I guess I'll go ahead and ask this question, and it'll pertain to the rest of them as well. Has full and complete application been made? Has full and complete application been made for this zoning change? Meaning all plans, all detail, everything, has everything been submitted?
I don't know what all that was submitted to Mr. Darden.
Okay, and he's saying, though, that when you give him an answer, it pertains to all of them. Is that right, Commissioner Chance?
Yes, sir.
I don't think he heard that
Yes,
part.
sir, and because I know you got to leave here in a few moments, my question pertains to all the zoning changes we're looking at tonight. Do you know?
We did discuss all of them in their context the other night, and we have a couple of county commissioners that were in that meeting as well.
Yeah,
And
Commissioner
you guys
Duckett's
have not
on
slept
the
since
planning
then,
commission.
But I don't know to the extent of what he, I think he's just talking about overall design or overall plan as to what they were thinking about doing with the property. I don't recall what all the specifics were on that.
But I think
He had some application, but I'm not trying to avoid the issue.
Oh, I understand.
I just
I understand.
don't know what all he said. I don't remember what all he said on that.
Right, and if you don't
Do
recall, you
Mr.
don't
Morris,
recall.
or
yes.
Do either of you, Mr. Duckett or Mr. Morris, remember what he, I don't remember. And he's not here tonight, I found out.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly had another question too, didn't you? Did you have another question?
I had a comment to make. My concern being, whenever you take what is in a low density, if I understand RS1, it is one of the low density versions of residential in this county. And we're going to stick in the middle of it a commercial piece. I'm not sure that that's legal because that becomes spot zoning. You just gone into a residential area, made it commercial. That is prohibited under Tennessee statute, and I'm concerned that we're making a sort of a giant leap here in allowing that kind of a step to go forward. And I'd like to understand that process and how we're doing it. You know, and I've said before, and I'll say it again here, the same thing. This is a case where there needs to be an extraterritorial agreement between the county and the cities, because this is taking place in the Tullahoma urban growth boundaries. They need to be making the determinations of what meets the standards, because that's areas that are going to eventually, by definition, be acquired by the city, and for which they're going to have to enforce zoning and development and growth. And a lot of communities have made those steps to take that extraterritorial kind of provision, and we really need to look at doing that. And for that reason, and I'm going to ask that this be tabled.
You making that as a form of a motion? Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Cordell, I know you've got to go, so you go ahead and go. We thank you for coming, and we appreciate what you do.
That is in the Tullahoma area, you're right on that part, and I wish they
Who
had.
second that motion? Commissioner Brickett. Okay. Our parliamentarian said it's non-debatable, so let's vote on that. We're voting to table it. Teresa, are we ready? Are we on?
Does anyone want to change their vote?
Did everyone hear Teresa? She asked, did anyone want to change their vote? If not, let's have a count, please.
18 yes, 2 no.
Okay, 18 yes to table, okay?
Mr. Chairman, when is that to be tabled to?
When you made your motion, you can bring it up at any time. Okay.
Yeah. My intent was to see if we could engage Tullahoma some in this, and by the next commission meeting, get
Okay,
this
let's
back
hold
out and
up,
take
let's
care
hold
of
up
it.
just a second. I think Commissioner Thacker's got a call there. That's okay. We'll give you a chance to be able to turn it off. Oh, is that it?
Anyway, Mr. Mayor, my intent was to just simply put this aside for right now,
Okay.
make sure that Tullahoma's engaged and that we
Okay.
work out forward going how to deal with these. Yeah, I don't have any objection.
Well,
to either
he
one.
says it's tabled till you decide to bring it
Still
up.
comes back off, and the
To
intent
answer your
was
question,
to bring it to the
Commissioner
next,
Bryan.
to the next meeting.
That answer, okay. Commissioner Duffy.
I'd just like to make a comment. All zoning in the UDBs is a responsibility of the county commission, and the cities have no say in the zoning.
Okay.
Check your statutes.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if
Attorney
I
wants-
could comment on what Mark raised. The statute, as Mr. Duckett says, talks around that issue about the fact that when you've got the urban growth boundary and that's contemplated to come into the city, but the statute says until it does come in the city, it rests with the county to control and make those decisions. But by the same token, there's nothing to prevent the county from consulting with or getting the input of the city, or even establishing a way to get some approval of them doing it. It's probably a smart thing to do, but the responsibility lies with the county to make that decision. It's not something we...
I have a question.
But Bob, we can appoint members to the planning commission in such a manner to make sure that all those areas are represented, so that we know that we're getting total coverage for the county. It doesn't just have to be rural only on that group. It is the county's responsibility, and that does include the citizens from those areas as well.
I have a question I'd like to ask.
The one we just voted on?
That we just tabled.
Okay.
All right, it's 18.21 acres. That's in the 14th Congressional District.
Which is your district?
Yes. What are they going to use that for? I've heard they're going to bring in logs, storage.
Climate-controlled storage units.
Well, we got two commissioners that's on the planning commission, Commissioner Mars and Commissioner Duckett. Maybe they can answer that question.
Is that going to be then passed where Freeway Market was? Okay, past Freeway Market. All right, now where the Caney Fork and Western Railroad has done that clearing, what are they going to put there?
Commissioner Duckett, are you?
That particular area that he's talking about has already been approved by this legislative
But I think
body.
his question is, what are they going to, he don't know what they're going to
I
put
don't know
on.
what
Do you
they're going to
know?
put there. No, they're going to put some kind of a warehousing complex so they can ship stuff out.
Okay.
You mean we approved this and we didn't know what it was for?
We can't tell the railroad what to haul.
But we can say what they can put there or not.
We've already approved that they can put in a loading operation there. They don't even know what they're gonna haul.
Okay, we probably need to get on to the next resolution. Parliamentarian says we're discussing something we don't even have a motion on. Okay, Ms. Pat.
B, Resolution 2013-03, Resolution to amend Coffee County zoning Resolution 2006-39 to rezone the property of Tom Rice located between the Old Taloma Highway and Highway 55 to M2 Special Impact Industrial District.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to table this resolution.
Okay.
I'll second that
Wait.
as well.
We got to get it on the floor first. Let's get a motion and second to get it on the floor. All right. Do we have a second? Okay. Thank you. Now we got it on the floor.
I have a motion to table resolution 13-03.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that, but again, it's to get an understanding of
Okay.
what's going on and make sure that we do understand once we have the zoning in place.
Okay.
What can and can't happen in that area.
Okay. Let's vote.
Pardon? And since I made the motion to table,
30. Okay.
listening to the election commissioners,
Hey, Commissioner, the parliamentarian says we got to vote. Because we got a motion and a second to table, so let's just go ahead and let's vote.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Okay. It's supposed to come up yes. All right. Let's have the count, please.
19 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner, Ms. Pat.
Resolution 2013-04, Resolution to amend Coffee County zoning Resolution 2006-39 to rezone Highway 53 from the city limits of Manchester to Pomeroy Road on Old Woodbury Highway to C2 General Commercial District, 300 feet depth on either side of Highway 53.
Okay, let's get a motion and a second. All right, do we have a second? Okay. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, is there anybody in the public audience that has an issue with this resolution? I mean, obviously, the earlier ones dealt with, I mean, this is out dealing with near the new proposed middle school, right?
That includes that property. Mr. Bregan, I originally went to the Planning Commission and asked for my little property at 2401 Woodbury Highway to be zoned commercial, okay? And in the process, they decided to go from city limits all the way to Pomeroy Road, 300 feet inside the road. I've talked to several people up there that they really don't mind it because it's going to actually make their property more valuable. It does not increase the property taxes. I checked on that. It's just a way of making it more valuable.
It don't increase them until it's sold as a commercial place.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah, as long as it's residential, they still live there. Still residential.
Well, as long as there are residents there.
Yeah, as long as they're still living
It's
there.
commercial, but it's not residential.
Yes.
And
Commissioner
It's about
Duckett?
2.5, 3 miles.
Commissioner Duckett?
Yes.
Commissioner Chance, you'll be next.
Can I have the floor, please?
Commissioner, let's hear what Commissioner Duckett has to say.
Woodbury Highway is now a 5-lane road, and there are several businesses along the road that's in a residential area.
Mm-hmm.
We felt like that all that area up through there should be should be rezoned to commercial,
Mm-hmm.
so that it will be a district where commercial activities can move into, and the commercial ones that are there now can be zoned properly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Commissioner Chance.
the landowners that, I guess, this is not a contiguous piece of property for the entire distance by one landowner, is it? No. Okay. Those who are impacted by this, they even want this.
The ones that I have talked to, it's Mox next to them, they don't care.
Yeah.
Right, and people work and everything, so it's not always able to make it to public hearing. But I didn't know if our planning commission approached each one of these landowners and said, we're going to change your property from residential to commercial.
Okay. Yes. Yes, okay. Any other discussion? All right, question been called. Let's vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, I need to change that vote to abstain.
Pardon?
I need to change my vote to abstain.
Okay. When she asked, you do know what he did. He wants to abstain when you ask that question. Okay. Did everybody hear the question she said? Did anybody else want to change their vote? If not, let's have the count, and we know that Commissioner West wants to abstain. What's that put us? 16 what?
16 yes, 3 no, 1 abstain.
Okay, 16 yes, 3 no. Okay. Ms. Patton?
D, Resolution 2013-05, resolution to withdraw from the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System as of July 1, 2014. This will not affect current employees, only new hires as of January 1, 2014. July 1, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's get a motion and a second.
So move.
Okay, do we have a second? All right.
Mr. Mayor, can we combine these two?
Hold on just a minute, Commissioner. Who seconded it? Commissioner Meyer? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
Probably too late to ask that now, but could this one and the next one be combined?
Well, we've already got a motion and a second one on this one, so, okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, can y'all tell us what committee this came through?
Commissioner Ricken?
Yes, this came from Budget and Finance. We had the, I guess, a head of TCRA and their general advisor come down and cover the issues dealing with, at our last commission meeting, when we adopted basically the defined contribution plan for future employees. We did not realize, because I guess we're still cutting edge on this, that by electing to go with a defined contribution plan for new employees and not have a defined benefit plan, we were in essence saying that we didn't want to participate in the TCRS program because the TCRS program only has defined benefit programs within it. So by what we did at the November meeting, they said in order to make it technically correct, we're going to have to withdraw from the TCRS. And when we voted in November, we thought this would be effective for new hires beginning July 1 of 13. Is that right, Mariana?
Actually, we thought January 1st, 2013 to begin with.
Yeah, 2013. Anyway, this pushes the effective date out to July 1st of 14, so it's 18 months from there for new hires after that day. So two things changed. One, it technically says we will not be, for new employees, will not be participating in the TCRS program. Existing employees still will. It won't affect them at all. And it delays for new employees until July 1 of 14. So,
how does it affect elected officials? How does it affect elected officials? They're in the same program.
As far as, you talking about current elected officials?
No, he's talking about
in 14, when we have new elections?
After
I
2014.
would say that they would be in the new program and not in TCRS.
Commissioner Farrell.
Mr. Bricken, can you explain why it was taken out TCRS again? I don't think I really understood that.
Okay, TCRS is, the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement Program is made up by definition of plans that must have a defined benefit program in it. And if we choose for new employees to only have a defined contribution plan, which is what we approve, they're saying that for new employees and for the county, you really do not want to be an active participant after July 1 of 14 in the TCRS program. It sounds kind of technical, but that's what they say. Your new employees are not going to be part of the TCRS program because they're going to be participating in a defined contribution program that's going to be administered by a company that's affiliated with TCRS, but it's not technically under TCRS.
Is the state taking them out? Is that my understanding? Is the state taking new employees off of TCRS, or is it the county commissions?
The state gave counties in the last legislation the right to determine what type of defined retirement plans we wanted to make available for our employees. And we determined at the last commission meeting that in the long-term interest of this county, going to what would be equivalent to a public, it's a 457B program, but it's equivalent like a 401K program for our new employees after, which turns out to be July 1 of 14. Because what it will do, certainly it will hopefully not only provide a good benefit, because the county's going to put aside 5% of their pay, let them match up to 5%. They can even do more than that. But I mean, I don't want to get into the whole debate of what we adopted in November. This is just what I call a technical clarification that TCRS came back and says, guys, we read your resolution, your motion. If you're going to go down that path, you technically have to elect to terminate out of the TCRS program come July 1 of 14. So, before us tonight.
Okay, any other questions? Let's vote, please.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, let's have the count.
13 yes, 7 no.
Okay?
Wait, let's see. Doesn't this have to have a 2/3 vote? That's what it says in the document.
Well, we're short one.
Yeah, that's what I was reading. That's what it says. That's
short
what
one.
it says. I don't know.
We're short one vote then. It don't pass.
Well, anything that usually is affiliated with the state has a private act attached to it, so.
Yeah,
you have to come
can
back
I
for
ask a
ratification.
question with that then? Since this was a technical change to continue what we had adopted in November, if we have turned this down, that means we've thrown everybody out of that retirement plan. Is that right? I mean, if I understood this right, we're going to take everyone who is currently in the plan and would stay in. they're going to be out because we've opted out of the plan on our prior approval in November. So forward going, everyone's going to be just getting a 401k plan.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think if this vote holds, there are two things. One, I don't know what it would take to get another revote other than waiting until the next commission meeting. Or we go back and say, the people that voted no, I don't know if they voted yes to come out of the plan, because if they did, then it's inconsistent. But we'll have to go back and say, we'll either have to go with another option, come back to this full commission and says, you know, of the retirement options that was proposed last November, we'll have to come back and either propose another one.
Mr. Mayor, I hate to jump in that, but I look and see I voted no, and that is not what I voted. I voted yes.
You voted yes?
Yes, sir.
Well then,
Sorry.
if you voted yes, hang on just a second. We want to make sure we do it right.
Any of you commissioners can call for a division of the House, and that would call for an immediate revote.
Any commissioner. Do you need a second on that too? Okay. So let's revote. Let's let him reset it though before we do. We're going to revote on it again. Well,
Mr. Chairman, do we need any further discussion before it is revoted?
no, we're going to revote unless somebody.
You know, because one thing, and no, Mr. Bricken didn't necessarily elaborate on this, but in the general consensus of retirement programs, what is happening is retirement programs used to be defined benefit plans. And that is becoming very, very quickly something of the past. And one reason being is because the prohibitive costs associated with having a defined benefit plan. Therefore, that's the reason you've seen companies and all kinds of other business entities, government entities go into 401k, which are defined contribution plans, profit sharing plans. They are plans by which the county can elect to make certain contributions and match up to certain contributions if the employees elect to do so. And you're providing whatever that account totals. And the employees have options of putting their monies in different accounts and different options that they may have available to them. So one of the primary concerns here is staying in the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, which is a defined benefit plan, could become cost prohibitive to the taxpayers of this county. Therefore, they're not taking away anything from current employees. It would simply be new hires starting at July 1, 2014. You would be providing them benefits in a 401k defined contribution plan as opposed to the much more costly and unknown defined benefit plan. Now, I don't know if that helped any of the rest of you, but it's pretty significant before we vote that, you know, commissioners do understand what's happening here.
Okay. We ready to vote? Let's go ahead and vote. Thank you. Let's vote.
Mayor. So what it would take, and I think that would be the right size, ones that go with the lesser, you know, the ones that voted. So I think Mark can do it, but I think it's under that.
To the division of the House, it is a way to ask for a revote. Robert Rules.
All right. Not yet. Hold on just a minute. Okay? Are we good?
I don't know about the division of the House, but I think on motion of one of the of the prevailing side, which was no votes, it can be revoted under our procedure.
Yeah, he's saying, we followed the Robert's Rules of Order stuff. Hang on just a minute. We've got a little technicality here. What do you? Okay, are we good?
But the only thing about it is no, our rule says on the. Yeah,
But
that's
we
right.
had 14 Trump law. And we hung when you had the vote.
He is, so that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so we're good?
Yeah, under the.
Okay, now you can ask that question.
Does anybody want to change their vote?
If not, let's have the count, please. Well, we just want to make sure, and that's why there's up here in the discussion about it, to make sure that we follow procedure. Okay, what we got now, 15 yes?
5 no.
5 no's, okay. All right. Miss,
Can I ask a question though, just for the attorney?
Okay.
Just on this particular thing.
Okay.
Does this have to go, Rob, does this have to go to the state, come back to us for ratification since it is a 2/3 private act?
Is that me? I didn't.
That's to you.
well, ask him again, because
Since this is a 2/3 vote and it's affecting the state, is this
Can be
anything
ready
dealing
for
with a
next
private act with a change
Get ready for next time.
because of the content, and does it have to be brought back to the full commission for ratification?
Doesn't it look like it has to come back? It just indicates it has to, we have to send certification that we had 2/3 vote of the membership voted for it.
Could we check to be sure, just as a follow-up, to make sure that
We
we're
can
following the
check.
guidelines through the mayor's office, or you, one, just to make sure that's...
if it goes through the mayor's office, Commissioner, it'll go to the attorney, so we'll just
And I
cut to the mayor's office.
I want to
and
make
go
sure
straight
that
to the
it,
attorney.
that it is something that we're going to have to follow through with.
We'll go
so-
straight to the attorney.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. And he's looking at it there.
I know now that we voted, it's going to go, and usually
Yeah,
it's come
The
back for
things that
ratification.
generally have to come back are like private acts.
And that's my concern. If it's an amendment to a private act at the state level, it's still got to be handled the same way. That's
don't
what's
think
been
this-
done down years gone by.
This, I don't think this is a private act, this is just a vote as to whether.
Even though it affects the private act?
No, I don't think it is.
Well, Commissioner, he'll check anyway, okay? We'll check. Okay? Ms. Patton?
E, Resolution 2013-06, State of Tennessee Employees Deferred Compensation Plan and Trust, 457B, Resolution and Participating Employer Agreement.
All right, let's get a motion in a second so we can talk about this.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Commissioner Kelly, seconded. All right, discussion?
I asked Mary Ann, we did get all the boxes checked through this one, and it's ready to go.
Yes, we did, and the questions we were not supposed to answer say we're not supposed to answer this section.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's vote, please.
Does anyone want to change their vote?
Okay, everyone heard that? Does anyone want to change their vote? If not, let's have the count.
18 yes, 2 no.
18, 2 noes, okay?
F, Resolution 2013-07, Resolution adopting policies and procedures for the administration of federally tax-exempt debt obligations.
Okay, let's get a motion in a second here so we can talk about this.
So moved.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Question's been called. Let's vote, please.
Does anyone want to change
We
their
got one more that Commissioner Bradford hadn't finished. Okay. Okay, if not, let's have the count. Okay.
G, Coffee County Debt Management Policy.
Okay, let's get us a motion in a second here, so we, thank you. Thank you. Do you see that too? Okay. Discussion? Let's vote, please. Ms. Thomas? Thank you. Okay, if not, let's have the count. Okay.
Okay, H, report on debt obligation.
This does not require a vote, just needed reflected in the minutes that you were presented with. The debt obligation report, this is from the jail bonds that were recently sold. Now, anytime we do bond transactions, you'll see this report in the minutes of the agenda, on the agenda.
Move to accept the report.
Okay. We don't have to vote on the report, is that right? Is that what you said, Mary Ann?
Right. It just
Okay.
needs to be reflected in the minutes that it was presented to the
Okay,
commission.
just as long as it's in the minutes.
Mr. Chairman?
Can I ask a question about it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
this
sorry.
came up at our caucus, and Mariana, again, we didn't see this as budget finance. The repayment schedule on 14, the accumulative principal redeemed debt, do you know what makes that up? I mean, I just...
Give her a minute there.
Yes, that will be with this included in it.
No, what makes it
Well,
up?
I think Ms. Fan asked, was that our total debt? Is that what you answered?
Yes.
Okay, but Rush had a different question.
Yes. That's the jail.
Okay, Commissioner Bricken's got a different question. Did
But
you say,
when you say this, the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, the accumulative amounts, is that all debts, school debts, every debt that might be coming due in those 5-year periods?
Yes,
Okay.
as of right now.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's go to the next item. Ms. Patton? You're doing a good job, by the way.
J, 2013 road list.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Oh, sorry.
Wait a minute. Oh, well, we're going to go ahead and do it, then we'll skip back to the other one. Okay, we got a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Okay, well, you're right. She jumped one, so. Well, you just showed me that you was. I was paying attention. Okay. Commissioner Morris, you second that. Is that right? Okay, thank you. Yes, and you first. That's right. Okay, are we ready? Any discussion? Let's vote, please. This is on the road list. Yeah. I tell you what, we're getting out of here earlier tonight, aren't we? Commissioner Mai, are you having a problem with your... Okay, if not, let's have the count. 20 yes, okay. Now, Ms. Patton?
Okay. I skipped I, budget amendments. There are actually two, there's one on the back.
We're gonna do both of them? We're gonna do both of them, same time, okay.
So moved.
Okay, we got
Second.
a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Bricken. And Commissioner Alford.
Do you want me to read them?
Has everyone had a chance to look at the amendments? Okay. If there's no discussion, then let's go ahead and vote on them. Okay. Are you ready to ask your question? Oh, Commissioner West, is that what you're saying?
Does anyone want to change their vote?
If not, let's have the count, please. This other one's gonna be a lot easier. Okay? 20 yes. Okay, we're down to statements and announcements. Commissioners?
Before
Commissioners?
that, I guess still kind of under other,
Do-
number of K.
Oh, you want to do other? What have you got?
I would like, and I'm not sure what the channel is, but the zoning issues, I would like to see the reformation of that 1101, whatever that committee is,
The coordinating committee?
coordinating committee, to be rechartered, and do their work to come back and then get adopted, because, and again, Mr. Darden's not here, but I spent some time with him this afternoon. The original, and I do have doubt that the original chartering commission was appropriately adopted by all the parties. I still would like to get confirmation that that did occur, but
Okay, your motion is to create, reinstate the 1101 committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did we get a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Let's vote. Hold on. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Duckett, Commissioner Fan, and then Commissioner Alford, and then Commissioner West.
Okay, assuming that they're reconvened, what would their agenda be?
right now, I'll just say what I heard today, in that the original chartering commission left a lot of things off the mapping and the redistricting. And there was things that almost addressed what we came up on Palmer Road, on Highway 53, that we probably should look at major highway corridors and put a C3 zone or 2, whatever, down major highways, rather than having to come up and spot this along the way. There was things like that Mr. Darden cited to me, and he said, you know, it would be good to clear up a lot of things that was on that original map that a new chartering commission would do, and it made sense to me. That's why I'm proposing this tonight.
1101 committee, of which I was a member, was not charged with zoning. We were establishing PGAs, UGBs, and rural. That's what we were doing. We weren't setting up zoning. That was only approved after the fact.
I really don't understand the whole process, but it appears that this 1101 committee not only established the zones, but the zones within the zones.
Well, can they do the zoning too, Commissioner? If, as a committee, can they set up the zoning too?
1101 committee was not charged with zoning.
But can they do it? Do they have the ability to
We'd
do it?
have to go back and look at the 1101.
Okay. Well, There were several. I don't have the list. Do you remember, the one that was on the committee, do you remember who all was on it? Speak. Commissioner, could you speak in the microphone so we
Walt
can...
Gus, Mr. Duckett, Mr. Ricky Milburn, Mr. Austin Anderson.
Carol Willis.
Yeah, Carol Willis was on there. Who was the other one? There was,
Well, you had Tullahoma and Manchester too on the
Yeah.
committee,
Right.
didn't you? Okay. Robin was on it?
Robin, were you on that? You was on the Metro part.
Mr. Chairman, you know, for this to be introduced at the very last minute, and I appreciate Mr. Brick and what maybe he's trying to do, but, you know, it hadn't been on the agenda. We don't really know a lot of the answers to this. And trying to reestablish a committee or establish a committee, you know, I feel that's something we ought to give a lot of thought to, you know, before we, just at the 11th hour after we've been in this meeting 2 hours, and we suddenly start to consider something that could have a lot greater ramifications, and certainly no one here is able to answer all these questions. And you very well got a person or two out here in the audience and that could have been on that coordinating committee, but that's been a while back, and I think we need to really look into that and get a lot of information before we try to make this kind of decision.
Well, are you making a motion to table it?
Well, I'd like to add something before that goes. If we're going to table it, I'd like to add something before we do.
We believe it may have been Mr. Smith and Mr. Northfleet.
No, I'm not.
Commissioner Bryan, were you finished?
Basically, yes. I'm just trying to say, you know, we need to look at this, and as far as trying to make a decision about something like this, we need to have the adequate information in order to do it.
Okay.
Since I made the motion, I kind of agree with Bobby. I want Eric to have a chance to talk. If we can either move this to the appropriate committee, I would like to see it get back at the next commission to request the mayor to move forward with this, because I think it's important. I think it would accomplish a common good.
Okay, do you want to rechange your motion? Okay.
All I was going to add is that the way the process actually works is we don't, as a commission or a legislative body, form the committee ourselves. In fact, it's not even required that anybody on this commission be on the committee. The way it works is, and all we can really do is ask the mayor's office to convene this coordinating committee, and what their duties and responsibilities would be to take the current growth plan, examine it, update it with any, like you were saying, you know, we've got a lot of roads that are now 2-lane divided highways and such as that, but their job would be to examine what was done in the past, update it to what the current needs are for the county and the 2 municipalities. We've also had a census. We've grown by 10,000 people. You know, and that would be the purpose of it, but we don't establish that committee ourselves. That's something that the mayor's office establishes. All we can do is ask that it be established.
Okay. Commissioner Bricken, would you like to withdraw your motion till the...
Yeah, because what I want to understand is, if we take no action tonight, what's going to happen between there and our next commission meeting? Who's going to take some action to educate somebody to bring it back, or I'll be making the same motion to an uneducated group?
I think Commissioner Chance said it. I'm the one that has to call it, you know. That's my call, so.
I understand, and I don't mind leaving the motion that says I'm requesting the mayor to consider reforming this committee.
Okay, consider, okay.
And if he doesn't report back to us at the next commission, why he didn't choose to do so?
I'll second that again.
Okay. All right, you want to third it? Okay. Question? Okay, let's vote, please.
Okay, what are you voting on? Let's establish that.
To request that the mayor take a look at bringing back up the 1101 committee to take a look at the zoning.
At the growth plan.
Mr. Chairman? Some of those committees are passed on. What are we going to do? Replace
Well,
those?
No, it's not a
You don't have
selection
to
of
call
committees. It's defined as the who's in it. You've got the county executive or his proxy. You've got the mayor from each municipality, a member from the governing board of the municipality-owned utility system. So it's well defined exactly who is on that coordinating committee.
Where are you reading that from, Commissioner?
Public Chapter 1101.
Okay. Okay, I thought you was on the internet. I didn't know you had it. Okay. All right, okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion? Yeah, we're voting. Well, what did you want to be? Okay. Any other changes? If not, let's have the count.
Yes, 3 no.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we have to keep in mind that any decisions reached by this committee has to be approved by the legislative bodies of both cities and this body.
Right. I think we have to involve them back in it too, won't we, Commissioner? Like you said, it's defined on who has to be back on the board.
And we need to look at the 1101
Yes.
to see what they're charged
Yes.
to do, and I don't think it's zoning.
Okay, that's what we gotta, well, that was one of the things that Commissioner Bricken, wasn't you concerned about the zoning side of it? Wasn't that one of your questions? Okay. Okay, statements and announcements, we're still on that. Any other commissioner? Okay, if not, if there's anybody in the audience that'd like to say something, I'll give them 2 minutes each, and if not, is anybody in the audience? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, stand up.